Everybody, this is Etienne Marcel Pertut, the Sports Inquirer, and welcome to another edition of Fighting Peaches. And we continue our preview of the college football season, as well as recapping our time in New Orleans for the Sun Belt Football Media Days. Today, we're going to be highlighting Troy football head coach Gerad Parker. As always, to follow everything that we do, head to the mothership to sportsinquirer.net, premier site for news and notes in the world of sports. You can also head to our social media platforms on Twitter/X, Instagram, and Facebook. Just look us up under Etienne Marcel 2 of the Sports Inquirer. And finally, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our audio and video hosts, which include YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, and more. As I mentioned, we were able to speak with Troy Coach Parker about this upcoming season for the Trojans and everything else going on and off the field with his program. Enjoy.
All right, we're here with Gerald Parker, head coach of Troy football. I'm preparing for this media day. So many these teams, so many question marks. So I'm just gonna start with the general question: how's the off season been? How preparations been as the team gets ready for this year?
You know what? It's easy to say. I think every coach on your broadcast today will say it's been very good. So I'll keep the standard answer. It's been very good. Listen, it's a puzzle to put together and acquire a roster, and then certainly retain it, and then you have to develop it all together and build team chemistry. So we met first January 14th for most of those that were mid-year, and all our guys returning, and there's been a constant message of our improvement, development, and just a path to better, and that's what our guys have done. We're led better, our leadership's better. Big piece of that's these two guys sitting to my right, and it's the reason we sit here and certainly feel different and more confident about our approach and where we're headed.
You finished last season winning 3 of your final 4 games. How can you carry that over into this year?
Well, I think for me as the head coach, I've quickly learned there's a real thing when you have returning players of momentum. I certainly don't want to act like that doesn't help us ride some momentum into January. I think it did help some belief from our team and certainly in our staff and players and how we would build it. So I think that is real. And then I think there's also reality to this is that last year has nothing to do with where you're at in the world of the next season. You have to respect that each year's a new year. Past success doesn't guarantee future. It's a nice precursor, and it's certainly why Troy, we believe, is a wonderful job and a place to be. But there's a price to be paid for winning, and that is year in, year out.
Yeah, and you have Goose coming back at quarterback. How's that been? And just about the entire offensive unit. You mentioned the returners. What about having him come back, hopefully fully healthy and ready to go, and just the entire offensive unit?
Well, there's a reason he's here today. Our football team knows and believes in Goose Crowder, and he's a leader in our locker room and a guy that everybody looks to. Having him back, the quarterback position is important at every level of football. If you don't have one of those, you don't have a chance to win championships. We believe very strongly in him and his ability to lead us to championships and what he's done to prepare his body and mind and lead this football team.
Yeah, you got Devin back as well, all-conference player. What about the defensive unit, especially Devin and the defensive backs and what you've seen from them?
Yeah, I think for Devin, he was our most productive player in many of the games last year, and his ability to get to the football, line guys up, and play at a pace that we want to play with on defense. And it became very apparent last year that he was that guy. So to have him back and kind of set the tone for what you want your defense to be moving forward in year 2 was critical. His development and leadership has taken a huge step as well because he's kind of a quiet guy, but he's made strides in being vocal when he needs to be. I just think there's so many names as well on our defense that everybody now recognizes. That's a huge step for us. There's veteran players at our D-line position. All our second-level backers have all played, and many names that everybody that calls or watches our games will know. And then, in the back end at our safety position, you've got some guys that have played a bunch of football, and then there's a lot of new that we needed as well.
And second year into the program, just what's that been like for you personally and just building the program overall? First year is always difficult, hiring a staff, learning your players. What about year 2 now that you're coming into it now? How are you feeling?
Yeah, for me, and I've been very open with our players and our staff. I feel way more comfortable. Everything, once you've done something, you don't know what you don't know. Do you feel ready to be a head coach? I certainly felt ready, but until you do something and go through hard and go through things that you have never fixed or have to find solutions and you can't blame or look at anyone else besides yourself, you're forced to deal with it. So last year taught me a lot. I just feel more comfortable. I feel more present. I feel more composed. I feel more trust in our staff and players. I sleep better knowing what we've been through together, and year two feels that way.
Yeah, let's answer some rapid fire questions. Thanks for joining us. By the way, once again, Coach Parker from Joy Football. Favorite stadium that you've coached in besides your current home?
Yeah, you got to say the vet, huh? Yeah. Besides that, probably the best environment would have been the whiteout up at Beaver Stadium, Penn State, Michigan. The year I was there, that was a pretty cool moment that year to play and see that environment.
Who's your favorite recruit that you were able to sign? It could be low rated, turned into a superstar, maybe just the story behind getting the guy. Who's your favorite recruit that you actually signed in your career?
Good question. I think it's because we just talked about him, but I would say Caden Prather. He just got drafted this past year. I had recruited him heavily from Penn State, and then when I left to go to West Virginia, I was able to get him there. I just think his rating and the player he was and his caliber to beat who we did on him was a really cool win.
Best high school recruit that you've ever witnessed in person?
Ooh, good question. Best high school.
It doesn't have to be someone who turned out to be a Hall of Famer, but just at that time, you're like, this player was at this level. You can name one or two if you don't want to be specific.
Yeah, there's so many. I'm trying to think of who it would have been and where. Um, yeah, I think seeing KJ Hamler live would probably be the one that sticks out. Saw him at Sound Mind, Sound Body back in the day, and he ended up being a second round draft pick from Penn State, and that he could go. I think live, that was as good a eval as I'd seen from the wideout position.
Just a few more. Favorite pregame meal, whether as a player or as a coach?
Yep, I'm a big spaghetti guy. A little bit of chicken. I'm chicken on top. That's nothing else. I don't want any sides.
One thing that you would change or improve in college athletics, or we'll stick with football, but just general landscape of everything that we've been seeing.
I hope every coach would say we need one portal window, one window. That's what I would change now.
All right, two more. Best coaching advice you've ever given?
I've given. I think just be where your feet are, do the job. I think a lot of guys have aspirations of coaching at high levels and making a lot of money. I've never really worried about the money. Be where your feet are, do a good job. The staff you're with will be your best allies in getting you other jobs.
And then finally, best coaching advice you've ever received?
David Cutcliffe would certainly be make sure you never practice a mistake.
All right, Coach, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, and we thank Coach Parker for joining us at the Sunbow Football Media Days as the Trojans prepare for the 2025 campaign. Of course, keep track of everything that we have going on. Head to the mothership, to sportsinquirer.net, premier site for news and notes in the world of sports. You can also head to our social media platforms on Twitter/X, Instagram, and Facebook. And make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our audio and video hosts, which include YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, and more. And once again, this is Etienne Marcel Patoot, the Sports Inquirer. Until next time, good fight, good night, be safe.